The Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Casey Crawford from Virginity to the podcast. The new Virginity record, Bad Jazz, is out today on Smart Punk Records. Casey talks about the influence of Blink-182 on his guitar playing, how he transitioned from comedy to music, making music that's fun, how that thing you do inspired the album, and more. Thanks so much for checking out As the Story Grows. If you're new to the show, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button on your podcast platform of choice. You can leave a comment and I will read it on the podcast. We've not had an Apple podcast comment in 4 years. So if you left a rating and review, I would love it, and I'll read it here on the show. You can find links to our mailing list, Discord server, and Patreon page in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com. Enjoy getting to know Casey Crawford from Virginity. You're good. Are you down in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daytona Beach. It's great. It's hot. I've been spending my days inside in a big bad way lately. I'm hardly seeing the sun. Every time I walk outside to like check the mail or something, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's that time of year.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. You grew up Daytona Beach?
I moved here when I was 10, and before that I lived in a place that's even hotter, which is Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
You're just born and bred to sweat.
Yeah. It's gonna be swampy no matter what.
It's not a thing you get used to or ever enjoy, right? Like
every year it feels worse.
I think because it is worse.
Well, yes, that's true. That's true. Because of climate change, it is actually worse.
Yeah, but it is getting worse all the time.
Well, that's a great way to start.
Yeah, let's just depress everybody. It's getting hotter every year. It's great. I'm up in DC, and if summer rolls around, and it's just like it's miserable here every day, just soupy outside and gross.
That's true. And DC is just that's like a real city, so it's just like that concrete heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's delightful. What was growing up like for you?
Oh, in Florida? I mean,
in general, Baton Rouge,
just
Florida.
in Baton Rouge, Florida. Life for my parent. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I barely. It's so strange because my memories of Baton Rouge aren't that strong because I only lived there till I was nearly 10.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I still go there. Like my entire family still lives there except for my mom and stepdad, which is who moved me here. So I still go back there several times a year, generally, to see the rest of my family. And even though it was only my home for 10 years, it feels like home.
Yeah.
To me in a weird way. Like I always feel like, well, I'm going home, but this has been home longer.
Yeah. Have you ever had that pull to move back to Baton Rouge, or just Florida's where life is?
I did. It was the most pivotal moment in my life. Maybe. No, I don't know. When I was in the seventh grade, I failed seventh grade. I failed a grade. And so I had to redo the grade. And in my shame, I moved to Louisiana and I lived with my dad for 1 year where I redid seventh grade. So I did get a little taste of it, of what it might be like. And I mean, I stayed there 1 year and immediately moved home. So I was just like, this place sucks. But that was the year also that I started playing guitar. That was the year that I got into music too. So it was an important year. I wonder if it would have happened either way.
Yeah. Yeah. What led to that decision to pick up the guitar and play guitar?
My cousin, who's my best friend, we're like pretty much the same age, and we've just been tight our whole lives. He was like, I'm gonna play guitar, and like his goal, I think, was to like be in his church's worship band.
Okay.
And like I was just like, well, he's cool, playing guitar would be cool, I'm gonna get into that. And I had just started like listening to Blink 182.
Okay.
That's like my entrance to punk is via Blink 182, like many dudes my age probably.
Sure. Yeah.
And so like I got into them, and that was going on, and I was like, he's gonna play guitar, I'll play guitar. We're living here together now, so we spent that first year playing guitar together.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, all of those things are what led to a compulsion. That was so long ago. I was 13, and I should be so much better at guitar than I am.
I say that all the time. It's really only within, I've had like guitar pedals and effects pedals, but it's really only within the last year that I've really dove headfirst into them. And I'm like, oh, I could have elevated my guitar playing a whole lot more when I was younger, instead of just being like this, like just plug it to the amp and turn the distortion up. Fuck it. Like,
yeah, man.
That was not wise.
I mean, I made the mistake of having Blink 182 be like the foundation upon which I built things. Like, not that I think Tom's an underrated guitar player. I think he has one of the most percussive right hands in the world. The man can pick, like wild good and move fast, bitch. So fast, it's crazy. But like his stuff's pretty simple, and that's what I learned. Like if I'd gotten into somebody like, I don't know, but like I wish I would have gotten into like Guided by Voices. Yeah. When I was 13 and see what that would have spit out.
That, I mean, I think Blink-182 still, like, I was like Green Day and MXPX because I'm like, oh, I can listen and play these songs easily.
Oh, yeah.
It's just all the 4 chords.
And those two bands too are also like, so like, I mean, I go from Blink-182, and of course being a person who at that time in my life, I was super immersed in Christian culture, like instantly people are like, oh, you like Blink-182? Check out MXPX. Check out Reliant K's first record had just come out. That was the first show I ever went to. Oh, man. Was Reliant K's first tour. They were opening for the Christian ska band, the OC Supertones.
The Supertones were my gateway into music when I was age 11, was when their first record came out, and that was my gateway into punk rock and Tooth and Nail. But by the time Reliant K hit the scene, I was like, these guys suck. I don't get it. I was like, I don't understand what's happening in music now.
Yeah, I get that. Switchfoot, I believe, also played that show.
Oh man, that's a line.
A very early Switchfoot, and oh, holy shit, and T-Bone.
Oh man,
the Christian rapper was somehow also on that show. Hell of a first show.
Yeah, that's a throwback. You know what? I think I saw that tour when it was in DC.
I probably did.
I don't know that T-Bone was there, but yeah, Switchfoot and Supertones for sure, and Reliant K. Yeah, that's the thing.
That's wild.
At what point you moved back to Florida? At what point are you like, okay, I can now play guitar, let's start bands?
I mean, it was just like a fantasy I harbored for a while. Like I came home and weirdly enough, like friends that I'd had before I moved, I'd like stayed in touch, of course, a little bit. This is pre-social media, so it's like literally like I talk to them on the phone sometimes. Had gotten into music as well a bit. They were listening to stuff like, so they had discovered a very good hardcore scene that we had here in Daytona when I was in high school, like a really good one. Like the bands that would come through here were wild, and some of them are fucking huge now and stuff. So via that, they had gotten into a lot of hardcore bands and stuff. So when I first started going to shows, even though like I loved like pop punk, I listened to, you know, all that kind of shit. Like my friends were going to hardcore shows, so that's what I went to.
Yeah.
And so via that, I got into that a little bit. I never loved it, but I still do hold it as an influence, and I do use, I don't know, things I've learned from it. And also, I just fucking love breakdowns. Anybody that doesn't like breakdowns can't be fucking trusted. They're sick. You're wrong.
That is true. Sometimes that breakdown goes too far, though, right? Like the deathcore breakdown
totally
that's happening right now.
Yeah,
So it's a
it's got to
little
be it's something tasteful.
Yeah.
Tasteful.
Yeah.
All things in moderation, and breakdowns especially.
I finally come to just outside the doors of high dive. I missed 100 calls from my wife, trying to make sure I'm still alive. I make my way past Lucy's, it's 2:30. I haven't seen Charlotte for hours.
Let's skip ahead. How did Virginity get started?
So Virginity started long after my any sort of aspirations for music. I had a kid very young. I was almost 19 when my first kid was born. So I instantly went into, I'm done with music, like high school band stuff, like, because that's what I was doing post high school, is playing in the band I had played in high school with. And so I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. I got to work. I have a kid, whatever. And so I'd given it up. And then in my late 20s, I started doing stand-up comedy.
Okay.
Just as my kids were getting older, so I had a little bit more free time and stuff, and I could certainly go out at night by myself late and do stuff. And I had a couple of friends doing it. So I was like, I went to an open mic to watch them, and I was like, oh man, I can do this. And so I started doing that, and that eventually led me to opening a show for the band Dikembe. And Dikembe is super involved in the Fest here in Gainesville. And I started doing comedy at Fest, and then I just started hanging around band people all the time and watching a lot of music and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And at the same time, I was getting kind of stagnant with comedy. And so I just started like writing songs again. I pulled out the old guitar and went at it. And that's how we wrote our first record. And I didn't even think like necessarily when me and our drummer who recorded it also, he's like our producer also. It might not even come out, but Dikembe put it out for us. And we've just been going, chugging along.
Nice. Was doing stand-up at Festville those years how you kind of make connections and relationships with people to kind of get the record in future records in like hands of different people? And
yeah, although honestly, like, so there was only one crossover fest where we played and I did comedy. Okay. Because after that, like, I got so busy with band stuff that it was hard to sort of like balance the two. You know, I still have children and like a wife and stuff. I have to I can't be doing stuff every single day. So it was either like band or comedy. And again, I had been feeling sort of stagnant with the comedy. So, and the band stuff, like people were into it and listening, like way more people than I would have thought. And so I was like, well, I'll just fuck with this then.
Yeah. What led you to choose Virginity as the band name?
My friend Shaw Smith, I told him that we needed to find a name for this thing once I realized that it was going to come out, and I didn't want to just like call it my name. So I just asked my buddy Shaw, who's a comedian. I was like, I need a band name. Shaw was like really instrumental in this band also, just because he got me. He also kind of helped me get into fest stuff, and he introduced me to a lot of bands that definitely we take stuff from. So I asked him, I was like, what's some band names? Like, send me some shit out. Like, every band name is bad, so I was just like, throw shit at me. And one of them was Virginity, and I was like, that's kind of funny. And I was like, and it's kind of like, I was like, it's stupid, but it's also like, you're kind of like, I got to hear what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, but there's like a weird like sense of innocence around it, and
Yeah, it's such a bizarre. Like, I go back and forth about the name all the time. Like now, I'm just saddled with it, so I don't. But I'm always just like, why do we name it that? Anytime a coworker's like finds out and they're like, "You're in a band, what's it called?" I'm like, "Oh God, Virginity."
Yeah, it's a funny joke until you're 10 years into your career, and it's like, this is the name of my band. It's embarrassing. But so many bands like that, like MXPX was Magnified Plaid, and they just kind of got lucky that a t-shirt design.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, when you like really, like if you think about like Green Day and you divorce it from the context of what you know about the band, you're just like, Green Day? That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. My introduction to the band was the Death to the Party EP, which I have on cassette from Rob from Friend Club. RIP.
Oh, that rocks.
Yeah.
You're one of the few cassette holders.
Yeah. Lucky. Talk to me about like navigating the pandemic as a band. Did you ever feel like maybe this is the end of this project? It's kind of run its course, or just like trying to build off whatever momentum you had and just keep going?
Yeah. So Death to the Party came out right towards the beginning of the pandemic. It was pretty much recorded. So and then also all the like the riots for George Floyd being murdered were going on and stuff, and it was just like such a heavy time, but it was kind of hard to put the brakes on it because it was like moving. And so like we just kind of just didn't talk about it. Like we let it come out, and we were just sort of put our hands up and we're like, people will find it. Or they won't. I don't know. Feels weird to talk about stuff right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's how we navigated that. We just let that float out there and kind of felt like we're taking it as not even as a loss. It was fine. People found it.
Yeah.
But we just immediately went to writing. And like, yeah. And we wrote Pop Mortem from our separate houses.
I'm sorry, every song that I write about you is really about me. You're something special, something real, what they call a good catch. Something to write home about, my folks would be real impressed. I can't for the life of me figure out.
Well, how'd you guys get connected with Smart Punk?
Our bass player Jordan works for a company that is sort of smart punk adjacent. So, and we just have known all those dudes for years. They play in bands that we're friends with, and you know, and Jordan especially, like he goes way back with them and stuff. So we just had like a friend relationship. So it just sort of made sense.
New album's called Bad Jazz. Where'd that title come from?
It's a thinly veiled That Thing You Do reference.
Okay.
Are you intimately aware of That Thing You Do?
I don't know if I'm intimately aware, but I've seen it a few times.
Okay, I've seen it a 1,000 times, and I watched it literally 2 nights ago.
Okay.
It's my favorite movie of all time. But anyways, there's a part, I don't know if you remember, the drummer guy is standing out in front of the hotel, and he asks the concierge, Lamar, where can I hear some good jazz? And he goes, oh, you want good jazz? Good jazz. And then he sends him to the Blue Room. Anyways, we were just screwing around at practice one day, and I forget even just musically, fucking around, jamming as it were. And somebody was like, kind of sound like jazz. And somebody went, oh, you want bad jazz? And we were like, oh, that's funny. And then we were all like, bad jazz. And it just sort of stuck in our craw. Nice.
Who did the album artwork and came up with that concept?
That is Justin Tordella. He's a great graphic artist. does work for like huge bands. He did stuff for like Green Day, My Chem, all kinds of huge things. And he was kind of friends with Matt from Smart Punk, the label manager for Smart Punk. And I think that's how we got on his radar. But I think he just kind of liked the band, and I think his wife liked the band.
Yeah.
And yeah, he would just occasionally like reach out, or he would, share one of our songs, tag us, whatever. And we just started talking in messages here and there. And then we went and played in Austin, and we'd met him there because that's where he lived. And we started talking more. And then I just kind of asked him one day, or maybe he was just like, hey, if you ever need any art stuff, I want to do it, whatever. And I told him, hey, we don't have any concepts or whatever. And he was like, I make these notebooks. Me and my wife have this business where we make these little notebooks out of old records that we get from thrift stores. And he's like, and as a byproduct of that, I have all these strips of records, and I've been hanging on to them forever, and I always wanted to do something with them. Will you let me, like, I'll make you a few things, but will you let me try something with that? And I was just like, sure, man, go to town. I'm a big proponent of, like, he's an artist. I'm like, whatever you can imagine is going to be so much better than me. So go to town.
Right.
And and what he came back with was kind of a rough version of what the cover looks like.
Yep. Nice.
And and then he took to designing the rest of the inside and stuff. And yeah, it came out great.
That's cool. Are there things that when you're writing songs, or like, are you really focused in on the lyrics, and are there things that you're drawing inspiration from?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I kind of start with lyrics in a way. Like I'll just have like some sort of phrase, or I don't know, a line or two that I just kind of like keep mumbling to myself until things come up around it, and fiddle around with an acoustic guitar and stuff. But generally I'm coming up with words like as I go along. And once I kind of figure out like, oh man, I'm writing about this, then I'll like kick out the rest pretty fast, and then work out a melody, hammer the words into place.
Yeah. Do your song titles always connect to the lyrics in the song?
No.
Yeah. 'Cause I figured Nashville Hot Chicken probably doesn't have anything to do with that track, right?
No, but I'll tell you how it does have something to do with it.
Okay.
Is this record, like 7 of the 11 songs were written in one weekend.
Okay.
I mean, not really. Like I came up with like little bits of these songs over the course of many months, but then when we all came together and hammered them out, we hammered out, 7 or 8 of them.
Okay.
That all made the record. And they're, of course things changed as they evolved and whatnot, but basically it's what's there. And so Nashville Hot Chicken. So our guitar player, Chris, is an amazing cook, like an amazing cook. Legit, anytime I get a chance to get some of Chris's food, I will drive to Orlando to eat it. It's so good. He made us Nashville Hot Chicken, like fresh, like, made fresh fried chicken patties, made the sauce from scratch and stuff. And they were so good. And the second we got done, we walked over and we just like hammered out that song in like 30 minutes. And that's why we call it Nashville Hot Chicken.
Nice. Do all the songs kind of have a tie-in like that, or just just that one?
I mean, sometimes, or it's like an in joke, or sometimes it's literally, it's, regular ass. These words are in the song. So.
Yeah. Nice. Arms Out June 28th. What's this year look like? Are you guys going to let the record come out and just see what happens? You got kids. I'm sure, older guys in bands have kids. It's not always easy to just go tour all the time, right?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, we did tour earlier this year. We managed to get out there a bit. We went to Canada this year.
Nice.
So I'm sure we'll do some stuff. We're really trying to do the upper Northeast, probably in your neck of the woods. There's actually no way we wouldn't play a DC show because I know how to get a show there.
Yeah.
So we want to get up into that neck of the woods at some part in the beginning of next year. We're doing a little weekender, like a month after the record comes out, is kind of a record release thing. We'll play Fest in October, and all the pre-fest things that will happen the week of and stuff. It's a very busy week, Fest week.
Yeah.
So that's what the rest of this year looks like, and then we'll see. We're always playing it by ear.
Yeah. Is there kind of an acknowledgement with the label, and because the music industry's changed so much that like they're not spending $500,000 on you to record a record, and you're not expected to go tour your asses off and sell 1 million copies to recoup that money? Like,
yeah, totally. And like we recorded this record ourselves.
Yeah.
So like the cost was for mastering, basically. So we made it cheap as hell. It was a blast to make, and I hope when people listen to it that it sounds fun, because we were having just such a blast when we made it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like appreciate about your band is like some bands just need to be fun, right? And not everything can be doom and gloom and the world. I mean, there's enough of that in this life.
Yeah,
right?
like this has to be fun, or oh my god, how could we do it?
Yeah.
Maybe we can hang out, 'cause I've been dreaming about the corners of your mind. Now I know that I'm sure